Now we turn our attention to Arizona State football because the Sun Devils, they win over Oregon. They beat the U of A. They're not going to the Rose Bowl. It's been 23 years since they've been to the Rose Bowl. Many of you have said to me, I only want to go to the Rose Bowl. I don't want to go to the Red Box Bowl. I don't want to go to the Sun Bowl again. It's not happening. But are they making progress? I can sit here all day long and say they're making progress. But I have to have somebody even better than that. That's Chris Karpman with Sun Devil Source. He joins us in studio because the season is over. Are they making progress?
I think that they are. Now, fans that got their hopes too high about some type of a 10-win season this year were kidding themselves, or they're just delusional.
They're close.
They really weren't.
2-point conversion at Oregon State. There's one.
Let me just put it this way.
Yeah.
How many games did ASU actually have clear separation from its opponents all season?
Not many.
Zero.
Yeah.
Right? Like Arizona pretty much was the only one. They required 3 comeback wins against
Not even
ranked
Sac
teams.
State.
Not even early on in the season, right? So I really think, Brad, that the 5-1 season was a little bit deceiving for fans. Of course, they look at it like, well, if they had just done this or that, but they also could have easily lost games against Michigan State, Cal, et cetera, right?
Great coaching, though.
Well,
Great play by Jaden Daniels, so you can spin it both ways.
Of course, but fans are going to see it totally
Yes.
glass half full, right?
Yes.
Like, so why couldn't we have just done this in the other games?
Right.
Doesn't really work that way, right? Before the season started, I said ASU was probably a 7-win team, give or take a game. That's where they ended up. That's what they were going to be if they played this season 100 times. 95 times, they would have been 6, 7, 8, maybe in a very rare occasion 9 or 10. And I do get it that a special season kind of happens, once maybe in a generation where everything kind of comes together. That 96 season was exactly like that for the Sun Devils.
Yep.
But their talent level and where they're at with their program right now is not comparable to that. They are still a very young team in a lot of respects. They're early in their evolution, especially defensively, still trying to figure out what they're doing. They have a whole bunch of sophomores. Some of those guys had slumps this year and maybe didn't, bought into their hype a little bit too much, especially after that 5-1 start, as Herm Edwards likes to describe it. Got a little bit too cocky and confident, believing in themselves a little bit too much, resulted in a 4-game losing streak. I think next year that defense is going to be a lot further along because they're not going to lose much at all.
Chris Karpman with a Sun Devil Source. Let's go through the checklist of who's going to stay, who's going to go. Eno Benjamin, staying or going?
He's going.
Chase Lucas, staying or going?
I think that's really on the fence. My inclination is he wants to leave.
Danny Gonzalez, staying or going?
Probably staying.
Anybody else that you think is going?
Well, they just lost 3 coaches, Brad. So
Well, they didn't lose. They said, there's the door.
see you later.
Yeah, thank you for playing.
Yes, they said goodbye. And
on a player front.
Yeah, I think there probably will be a few more. I think what you're going to have this time of year is some guys that maybe weren't playing a big role as juniors or thinking about graduate transferring. Maybe some guys that haven't been all that successful or getting the ball as much as they want to, like a Curtis Hodges, somebody like that. I could see something happen there. They're going to have the smallest senior class in terms of scholarship players that I've ever seen covering ASU. I think they'll probably end up with like 6 or 7 seniors who are meaningful players. That's a very small number, and that also speaks to the fact that the following year, when a lot of these current sophomores and freshmen are seniors and juniors, is when I think that they're really going to mature.
NFL draft, how many guys off this team?
Good question. I would say probably 3 to 4 will end up getting drafted. We know Brandon Ayuk is going to be probably their highest draft pick. I would say he has a chance to sneak into the first if he tests well. Second round seems very likely. After that, of course, I think everybody's talking about Eno Benjamin. I think he didn't help himself this year with the fumbling. You can't really hold him accountable for the blocking issues. Still got over 1,000 yards, still great after contact. But the fumbling, coupled with maybe not being a 4.4 speed, look amazing type of a guy, is a little bit of an issue. Cole Cabral probably didn't really help his stock out. I view them as kind of like maybe borderline 3rd round guys, 2nd to 3rd round guys for Cabral and Benjamin. And then there's a few other guys that have a chance. Kobe Williams, as we mentioned earlier, I think he'd be a great late flyer.
If we look at the way that things laid out for Jaden Daniels this year, a year ago, I'm at the Vegas Bowl, you're at the Vegas Bowl, and it's my understanding he was brought up to the board at one of the rooms, and he was just killing it. I myself wasn't surprised. Were you surprised with how he played and performed this year?
We'll put it this way. Before the season started, I said that he was a generational talent as a quarterback. And even with that being the case, I was a little bit surprised. And primarily on the interception side, the balls in jeopardy. Among the top 50 passers in the country in terms of yardage this season, Jayden Daniels is the only guy who had 2 interceptions only. Okay, Fields at Ohio State won, but he had a lower passing total. He might have
didn't need to throw the ball there.
He might have crept into that 50, but my point is pretty clear. I expected that he would have 6, 7, 8 interceptions and very few balls that maybe should have been intercepted. So he is an incredible talent, a first-round type of a guy. He's been compared to Deshaun Watson. ASU fans enjoy him now because he's only going to be around for 3 years. Then he's going to be gone. But we have to capitalize on that, right? If you're ASU, you're saying to yourself, how do we let Jayden Daniels go without us parlaying that into a Pac-12 championship, either when he's on campus or immediately after he's off of campus with maybe Joey Allen taking over or something like that. And I think in the recruiting, standpoint, Brad, when he committed to ASU, that was a tectonic shift opportunity for ASU in recruiting from Southern California. And now there's a lot of receivers around the West. Gary Bryant, LV Bunkley Shelton, Johnny Wilson, who's an Oregon commit who could switch. Those guys are going to want to play with Jayden Daniels. And so they have a chance to have their best recruiting class ever at wide receiver this year. And if that comes to fruition and they get the right coordinator in place to make it go, I think they can be really special.
Chris Karpman, SunDevilSource.com in studio. Appreciate his time.